All right, let's get this started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're so excited. I'm looking at my screen right now and I see two super powerful women that I'm excited to share this webinar with all of you. And before we get started, a little bit about myself. My name is Annette Uribe. I am the co-founder of Athena Financial. My husband, unfortunately, is not able to join us tonight, but us ladies are representing the, the strong leaders of Athena Financial. And we wanted to put on this webinar specifically for all the business owners, whether it's big, small. Why? Because we've seen more so than ever the need to really empower other business owners who maybe don't know of concepts that can utilize to grow their business or to sustain a legacy, really. So we're here today to share some valuable information. We have Stephanie Thomas and Cassidy Eden who are super knowledgeable in their field, and you'll be hearing from each of them in different areas. So tonight we'll talk a little bit about different ways insurance can sustain or make your business more successful, and different methods. And obviously right now we're going through tax season. So we have our expert Cassidy who's going to be sharing. I'm glad she's on here. I know she's super burnt out. She's been seeing clients after clients after clients, but we're so grateful to have her on here. And any questions that you guys have, please feel free to drop them at the Q&A or in the chat. We're starting to see some questions or some hellos there. So hello, everyone. And we'll get started. So again, Athena Financial Group, we are based in Fullerton, and our brick and mortar is in Glendora, California. Now, we do business in all 50 states. So regardless of where you're at, it doesn't matter because we're able to help you. Now, the beauty about our firm is we are a brokerage firm. So we have some of the best companies sitting on our shelves that we're able to help our clients, especially our business owners, to really ensure that their business will be in a better standing. So some companies, you've probably heard of them: Nationwide, Prudential, Transamerica, Voya, Gerber. These are all A-rated companies or above, and we are grateful to be able to have such a different selection, because we know that each business owner or each owner has different necessities. So this is really how we're able to tailor to everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all, and we'll get started. Now, again, the presentation today, it's turning your business really into your legacy. And whether it be for you, the business owner, or for your family when it's passed down. As a business owner myself, I know the importance of developing a team that will work alongside with me, who has maybe the same vision, who has the same goals, who is really motivated to give back to the community. And for us, it's giving back to our clients, right? Within finances. So it's super important. There's a lot of headhunters out there who are constantly looking for good, talented people. And I'll be honest, my husband and I, we're headhunters ourselves. We're always looking for someone with great leadership, someone who's motivated, someone who's maybe looking for a change. And as a business owner, I know the importance of keeping, when you find someone that good, of keeping them within your business so that someone else doesn't snatch them away. So what are kind of those techniques or products that you can use for these individuals? Well, we'll talk briefly about them. They're a little comprehensive. So really the talk today is kind of to give you an overview of what's available, of what kind of resources you are able to have, again, for yourself, the business owner, and for your employees. Many of the times we get very caught up in just, are the numbers there? Did we have enough cash flow today? If you're a brick and mortar, you're a restaurant, what were the consumption today compared to yesterday? And we forget about who is the most valuable um, individuals within our business, and it's our employees. Now, how can we give back to them? Well, there's different ways, and I'll go ahead and share each and it's just a few of them. There's a lot of other different methods and products out there, but I'll touch upon some of the key component ones, some of the more popular ones, the ones that we've recently been helping more and more businesses with. So I'll talk about keeping your business afloat, keeping it successful, protecting it, and even supplemental retirement. So how to keep your business successful and protected? Well, I'll briefly cover there's something called a buy-sell agreement and a key person insurance. And really, these two different products are designed so that in the case that, for example, the buy-sell agreement, this is an absolutely must if there's a partnership. If there are more than two owners, this is the type of product you should be looking into, because God forbid something was to happen to one of the owners. Well, then how do you keep your business running? How do you keep paying your employees? How do you keep paying for mortgage or rent or anything that you need to rent? So this buy-sell agreement, there's different components to it, and it can be very extensive or it cannot. Now, I'll briefly discuss on the two different types of buy and sell agreements, but the main purpose of this is for anyone who is in a partnership, has a small business or a business with two or more owners. This is definitely something that you want to look at. Now, the second one is your key person insurance. And this one's kind of straightforward. As the name itself says, it's, you're insuring your key person. Maybe you have one or maybe you have two. Maybe it's your executive assistant. He or she might know every single thing you're doing day in and day out. So they're really a key component, because God forbid, maybe a disability happens, they get ill, they can't work, or someone else, that headhunter comes and they said, hey, you know what, I can offer you more. Well, then there goes the productivity of your business, right? You might need to look for someone else who you're going to need to spend time with, develop them, train them. So this key person insurance not only helps the business owner, but it also shows that employee that, hey, I'm valued. This owner is taking the risk, or not the risk, but is really investing in me and is looking at myself as a key person. And then again, within key person, there's different ways of setting these up, but just an overview of what is available. On this next slide, we're discussing those two different types of buy-sell agreements. So one is the entity and one is the cross purchase. So the entity is where the business is purchasing this policy. So that, let's say you have two owners, we'll call it insured A and insured B. If something was to happen, well, it pays out to the business. Now, this right here is one of the types. The other type is your cross purchase, where again, we'll call it insured A, insured B, but basically it's just the two different owners, or how many owners there are, who are purchasing a policy to be enforced for each of the owner. So that if God forbid one was to be pass away, disability, or a life-threatening event, then that business can remain sustainable. It's also there so that the owner who remains alive can buy the shares from the beneficiaries of the second owner, who a lot of the times, for those of you who are business owners, I'm not sure how involved your family is within your business. They may or may not know to the T what time you open, what time you close, who to go look for payroll, and so many different things, right? So imagine yourself being this business owner and your partner passes, and the family of your partner has no idea of what dad or mom even did. So it's very unfortunate. We see it all the time. And this is when we see businesses taking a dump, right? There's not enough funds to keep the business running. And it's something that many work hard for. So this is definitely something to look into. Any questions? We're here to help. It is a little bit more extensive than just this brief overview. But again, tonight, we want to make it more so that you learn some different concepts that you're going to be able to apply as a business owner, again, for yourself and your employees. So this next example is that key person insurance. So pretty straightforward. The business owner purchases this policy in the event that that key employee was to pass or become ill, disabled, then that policy will pay directly to the business. Again, so that that business owner doesn't have to waste time and money to go looking for or recruiting someone else into the business. Maybe they can now pay someone else to train and develop that individual, or can use that money to keep paying their employees that are still currently working, so that the business owner can focus their time on training and developing someone else. So key person insurance. Lastly, one of the things that I'm going to touch base on is, well, how do you retain these employees? There's something within retirement called an executive bonus plan that is offered. Now, this is pretty cool because you don't have to offer it to all your employers. You can just offer it to those, and again, those key employees, so that they do feel valued, so that you're able to retain them, so that they're not looking for another job where they're offering them maybe more benefits or something for the long run. So this right here is something as a business owner that is completely tax deductible to you. So there's lots of pros to having incentives like these for your employees. One, you're retaining them. Two, it's a tax incentive for you as the business owner. So within these types of plans in itself, there's a vast majority. And the good thing about the companies that we work with, we're always able to really structure or tailor to the necessities of the owner, because what one owner might be looking for, the other owner might not. So any questions at the end, we'll be happy to answer them. This pretty much wraps up my portion of the, let me go ahead and exit out. I'm using my husband's computer. I'm more of a Mac girl, but let's see. Hopefully, there we go, stop share. Not too hard. So please, with no further ado, I am very excited to bring up Miss Stephanie Thomas. She'll tell you a little bit about herself, but she's a valuable player for our firm. So thank you all.
Hi, everyone. It's great to have you on the call this evening. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about disability insurance. So what you may or may not be thinking as a business owner, you may have a white collar job or work in an office, or perhaps you're thinking, I always wear my proper protective equipment, so I'm good. But studies show that actually 1 out of 4 individuals in their lifetime within their career will become disabled. Okay, so it's just one of those facts that shock you, and what's even more shocking is that we know as we sit down with clients and families and put, financial orders for them and their businesses and their families, we understand that oftentimes we don't see individuals pass away. They're more likely to suffer a disabling injury through their lifetime that eventually leads to a premature death. So like it says here, 3 to 5 times you're more likely to suffer from a disability than to die prematurely, okay? So that's why I think it's very important for, as a business owner, to be aware, one, what you can offer your employees as a benefit to retain them, attract new talent, and then also lower your turnover, right? So we know that with disability, what happens? There's usually a pause in income, a break, or a significant decrease in income. However, your expenses continue, right? The mortgage continues, the overhead, whether it's your office space, payroll, all these things that, you know, allow a business owner to keep their doors open, still continue. On top of that, as an individual, as a business owner, if you have a disabling injury, costs start increasing, medical expenses, co-pays that, you know, start accruing, costs regarding the disability that may or may not be covered by your insurance provider. And there's things like rental equipment, prescriptions, doctor's visits, home care. So you get the idea, right? So it's important to, one, protect yourself, whether you're an, you know, independent contractor, you own your own business. I'm talking to truck drivers. I'm talking about dental professionals, medical professionals. You rely on your skill set, and, you know, if God forbid, if something were to happen, an injury to your eyes or to your hands, would you be able to continue working in that field, right? So here's some more information and kind of myths regarding disability. So most individuals think that they have a savings of more than, give me just a second. My kid is in the background. So most individuals think that they can go without a paycheck, but the reality is that a survey conducted by Life Happens states that most families cannot afford to go without one paycheck. Or even as a business owner, one cycle of either having to close your doors. COVID was a incredibly eye-opening event that allowed us to see, wow, you know, we can't go more than 1 month, 3 months, and to kind of think about proper business planning and contingency planning for those types of events. A lot of individuals think that workers' comp will kick in if they have an injury, but the unfortunate truth is that only 1% of individuals actually fall in that category, that were either injured during work, okay, or a work-related injury. Social Security, if it does kick in and you're able to receive that compensation, it's usually only $1,100 per month, which, if you're in the state of California, you know that it's very expensive to live here, and that $1,100 doesn't go too far, okay? And one good thing to know is that 70% of private employers don't offer long-term disability. So whether you're an employee and have, you know, a business on the side, or if you have a business that employs individuals, it's important to know as a business owner that you can offer something like this. Perhaps you can structure it where the employee pays a portion of it and you pay the other portion. Or, I mean, it's not required by the state of California in this case, but that's just something to keep in mind, like I mentioned, to retain, attract, and reduce turnover within your business. I thought this subject was a very fitting subject because I actually suffered a disability. I was, you know, one of those individuals who went skiing for the first time. And luckily for me, I had an employer who did offer disability insurance, and it helped lower my cost. So on the left, I'm celebrating being out and about for the first time, and on the right, being discharged and getting rid of my crutches for a very long time after hip surgery. So just to give you a quick breakdown of one ACL surgery, which was what I suffered, it was anywhere from 20 to 50,000, okay? And I broke it down. So you have the surgeon's fee, anesthesia, the graft, medical equipment, Mind you, braces, crutches, the ice machines, all that adds up really quickly. Prescription to keep the pain down, those are very expensive. I had to pay, my employer helped me pay for a facility stay, right? Because I didn't have anyone living near me at the time. So I had to stay overnight until I could fly my family in, my mom and my husband, to take care of me. So in that, you see that transportation accommodations add up. Flight tickets aren't cheap. With that, you have, they have to eat as well if they're taking care of you. So you have to pay for their food. Utilities go up. Shuttles, you have to shuttle them in and out of the airport. Like all that stuff adds up. And so, I thought this would be a good just visual of you to see that, I didn't have a high risk job that I would say, but it can happen. It can happen. Luckily for me, it was my knee and not say my hands if I was a surgeon, or my eyes if I, was a dentist or of the sort. So I thought I'd share that with you. What is the purpose of disability insurance, right? So the purpose of disability insurance is to replace your income for you and your family should you become disabled and unable to work, okay? I always like to ask my clients, what is your biggest asset? And they always say my home. And I know we have a realtor on the line today, but the unfortunate truth is that the biggest asset is yourself, because you're able to bring income to your family and provide for yourself, okay? So what are some of the top causes of long-term disability? So there's musculoskeletal disorders, which account for 29%. And that is, let's say, I know I keep using surgeon and dentist because I think it's a good example and a good visual for this. So musculoskeletal disorders, if you're let's say an executive assistant or something of the sort, and you type all day, or you're always sitting down, that could have long-term effects such as carpal tunnel or hip disorders down the road, back issues. Then there's cancer, whether it's genetic or whether it's through a hazard. Maybe you work in a beauty salon, or you own a beauty salon, and you're, in the environment of having all these fumes near you and smelling that. Okay, now there's physical injuries, which account for 9% of injuries we see, and that is, slip and falls. If you're a restaurant owner and you have an employee who falls, and what if it's that key person, like Annette mentioned? What if it's, your business partner, and without them, the business doesn't run? How much would it be to retrain someone else and replace them? And would you be able to keep your doors open if that key person wasn't there for a disability, such as a slip and fall or work-related injury? Now, there's mental illness, right? We see a lot of professions that unfortunately have long-term, whether it's traumatic stress or anything like that associated with it, or whether it's, they suffer a concussion or a head injury down the road that affects their ability to work. Okay, so there's two different kinds of policies I'm going to be going over. There's own occupation and there's any occupation, which the title states what they are. Okay, so the own occupation provides coverage if you become disabled and cannot perform the duties of your own occupation. Even if you're still able to work, let's say as a professor, let's say you're a dentist and you can still teach, you can still consult, that would take care of that kind of scenario. Now, any occupation policy provides coverage only if you're unable to perform those duties within the profession which you're trained for. Okay, so that's kind of the different two major categories within disability policies. Now, there's two different kinds of disabilities. Like I mentioned earlier, there's short-term, which is usually anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So think of short-term like a pregnancy, right? Or long-term, let's just say, it's an injury, perhaps it's a disabling injury that lasts longer than 6 months, okay? They each have different elimination periods. Within short-term policies, they usually have anywhere from less than 14 days, which elimination period really means is that the time that you're able to essentially wait until you start getting the benefit paid out, okay? And then there's, for the long term, the elimination period is anywhere from 30 days to 720 days, okay? Now, short term, you're able to receive it for a short amount of time. You know, you're expected to return to work. Perhaps it was a fracture or a wrist or something small to the like, or perhaps it's long term. And we have policies that can pay anywhere from 2 years, 5 years, and even some until retirement to cover you, okay? So once again, I'll pose this question: who is your most valuable asset, or what is your most valuable asset? And it's you, okay? So start thinking about that as you go back to your business and operations. You know, hopefully we'll get started back again into some sense of normal life. And so definitely good things to think about, okay? Now, how is disability insurance calculated? There's one acronym that we use, which is MUG, so mortgage, utilities, and groceries, just to keep it basic. But as a business, that's for an individual, but as a business, it's the same thing. So if you have office space that you're paying rent for, utilities, your monthly expenses, whether it's payroll or anything to the like. And here I've kind of put a diagram of things to consider. So like insurance premiums, medical expenses, what do you have in your savings and retirement accounts already? Can you count on your business partner's income, or are they going to help you if something happens? Or even as an individual, let's say you're a truck driver and you have to rely on yourself to drive to a location to make money and drop off the goods. Can you rely on your spouse's income while you get better? So that's just kind of something, food for thought for you to start gathering as you start thinking about disability coverage. And if any questions come up, please feel free to ask, post them in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer them. That concludes my portion. Now I'll turn it over to Cassidy Eden.
Hi, everybody. Let me see if I can share my screen. I think, Steph, I can take over. Ooh, I just took control. My name is Cassidy Eden, as Stephanie mentioned. I currently, well, let me actually start from where we were, so we'll get caught up. I'm currently in the middle of tax season, so if I seem tired, that's my excuse. But no, I'm very excited to be here with you guys tonight. I'm glad that Annette invited me. Just a little bit of a background. I've spent the last 18 years providing accounting and tax services to individuals and businesses, not only here in Southern California, but all over the United States. My husband was in the Army for 10 years, so my tax business that I created was able to sustain, you know, our traveling lifestyle as a military family. Because if you've ever traveled with a family of 4 at Christmas time, which is basically the only time the Army ever let him off if he was not deployed, it cost you a fortune. So, and also hence the reason we only have 2 children. But needless to say, I'm very excited to come and talk to you tonight. And the topic that I'm going to talk about is the employee retention tax credit. Don't get so excited and like jump up and down or anything, but it is a very valuable credit. And what I've seen is a lot of people didn't really fully understand it when the pandemic hit. It's been around since March of 2020. But we are currently going through the process with a lot of our clients of looking back into 2020 in comparison to 2019 to see if they are able to qualify. So I just want to run you guys through a little example of what the employee retention tax credit is and how it works. And hang in there, because as of yesterday, a lot of additional changes happened. So we're going to go through it, and then at the end, I'm going to kind of give you the updated version of some stuff that happened, because obviously my slides were done before yesterday, of course. So the basics is in 2020, after March 13th, so March 13th all the way to December 31st of 2020, you are able to receive up to $5,000 of a refundable credit towards keeping employees employed, right? So you just, it's a process to claim it, but it's a pretty great credit for somebody who has even 1 employee right now, right? Anything we can do to save you costs. So hopefully you guys are paying attention. Don't fall asleep, maybe jump up and down a little bit. So what is the employee retention tax credit? It's, as I mentioned, a fully refundable tax credit for employees. You get 50% of the wages that you paid to them up to $5,000. So if you paid an employee, let's say $10,000, and you can take 50% of that as of last year. And so then hence the $5,000 you get back. Now, 100% of that credit is then reimbursed to the employer. So I'll say it again, 100% reimbursed to the employer. This is one of those things that's I've personally never seen in 18 years, but it's a really great option for people maybe running any size business, it's great, but especially for the smaller businesses that are really struggling through this time. So a lot of restaurants, retail, I would definitely take a look. And we're here to help too. So like, by all means, reach out. I think on the last slide, there was my contact information, but you can always message us and we'll send it back. An eligible employer, right? An eligible employer is basically somebody that during 2020, they paid the employees to continue working. Now, maybe those employees, it would have been really easy for the employer to go ahead and furlough them or temporarily lay them off so that they can claim unemployment. But in this case, it would be meant for someone who chose to remain in business and remain paying those employees. So hopefully that makes sense. And then what businesses can actually qualify. So I put the official definition down, right? But the basic is, and you can see it here in an example, you're going to compare 2020 with 2019, right? So same quarter one of 2020, quarter one of 2019. If your income decreased by 50%, then you would qualify for this credit. Okay, so in this example, I tried to make it super simple. In first quarter 2020, everything was going good in this company, right? And so they had an actual increase. But in second quarter, they saw a decrease. And so their income in 2020 was only 36.67% of what it was in 2019. So as of quarter two, they would qualify, right? So basically at that point, what we do is we just take a look at what the wages were that they paid to the employees, minus anything that they maybe used PPP money for, and then that is the amount of credit that that person can receive, up to $5,000 per each employee. So I kind of went over it a little bit here already, but the IRS will not allow you to double dip, right? They're not going to allow you to get the PPP money and use that money to pay those employees and then go ahead and claim this credit. So one of the big things to be aware of and make sure your accountant knows if they're the ones filing these returns for you is that they're not double counting, because at the end of the day, if Uncle Sam finds out, he's not going to be happy, right? And you're not going to get grounded. They're going to penalize you severely. So hopefully that makes sense. So again, wages of 50% of whatever your wages were, that's what you can qualify for in 2020. Moving forward, it's going to be different. So now here's the question. You figure out, you're pretty sure you qualify, right? You take 2020 quarter two compared to 2020 quarter one, or 2019 quarter two, and you're good to go, right? Well, what was happening is we have all these employees or businesses coming in to file their taxes, and we're like, did you happen to look at this credit? And they didn't. So what we do is we just file an amended payroll return. So for those of you who are part of that back house admin process, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's a 941X, and you just file it. It's pretty straightforward. But again, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Just go ahead and reach out, okay? So as I mentioned, there's always, it seems like in the last 2 years, a shift. So there's a new bill was just recently passed, right? And basically, I think they call it the American Heroes Act or American Savers Act. I'm drawing a blank right now. But anyways, so what this credit says, or what this new law says, is as of July 1st, 2021, you no longer have to have, or you no longer can only take 50% of wages. You can take 70% of wages, right? Which, wow, it's very generous. But then what does that mean? Well, now each employee, you don't only get 10,000 for the whole year, it's 10,000 per quarter. So where before the employee can only get 5,000 a year, now you can get 14,000 for the last 2 quarters of 2021. So it really extended the tax credit for employees to try to help out. And in addition to that, they also started looking at, who is available, like who can take this credit. So it's available for anybody that was fully or partially shut down. You didn't have, it wasn't mandatory. You didn't have to be like a movie theater, right? Movie theaters were completely shut down in all of 2020. You could be a restaurant that was open for outside dining, but could still do business. But in addition, now you don't have to see a 50% decrease in your income from 2020 to 2019. You only need a 20% decrease. So this really opened it up to a lot more people. And the last thing that they did is, if you started a business, let's say in 2020, if you had a decline throughout the year in your business, so let's say fourth quarter was really slow, you don't have to compare it to fourth quarter 2019 because you weren't in business. You can compare it to the previous quarter. So a lot of things opened up when they chose to make these adjustments. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully this will, if you're kind of more of a struggling business right now, or if you're just a business who's very tax savvy, now you just got a little bit of a bonus and you can use that money to open up some of these other great plans that Annette and Stephanie were talking about, to hopefully retain your employees even better. Hopefully that makes sense. So leading into that, right, we've kind of all been touching on this topic of the importance of retaining key employees, right? There's statistics that show there's only 5 main areas that employees care about when they're thinking of, do I stay or do I leave? And one of those key areas is benefits. If you provide health insurance, if you're providing group life insurance, if you're providing them with some kind of disability insurance, employees are 5 times more likely to stay at their current job if they have a good benefits package. So one of the things I would really encourage you to look at is the cost of losing an employee and having to retrain versus the cost of actually offering some of these services. So, it's about $2,500 on national average, not just in Southern California. Here, I'm sure it's much more, but it costs about $2,500 in order to train a new employee, right? So what would the suggestion be? Well, if you're going to stay, 78% of employers are reported that they're more like employees reported they're more likely to stay if they have some kind of great benefits plan, right? And it's really, so this is the 6 to 9 months of an employee's salary is for like an accountant, a doctor, a key manager, but $2,500 is just for any regular Joe employee. So just something to think about. Right. And so what I want to talk to you guys about is the type of group life insurance that we and other companies are able to help set you guys up with. Group life insurance, if you guys have ever been an employee or a professional, you probably have been taken into the HR department and sat down and they said, okay, these are all your benefits, right? And they rattle off all the stuff that these policies can do for you. But as an employer, there's some really key benefits. So you have to make a decision if you want to set up for your company a contributory or a non-contributory policy, right? And basically what that means is if you're setting up a contributory policy, then the employee is going to contribute to the cost of the group life insurance, right? Sounds basic, but basically what happens is that makes it mandatory that 75% of all the employees have to participate. So knowing your employees the way you guys do, you would have to figure out if that's something that people would buy into, right? The other thing with contributory is you're not able to now deduct the full cost of the group life insurance on your taxes. You can only deduct the portion that you contribute. Non-contributory, the employer is going to cover the whole cost. For example, I worked for a school district doing some accounting. The cost of insurance for them for a $50,000 policy for me was $7. So $7 for me to feel like my family has money in case something were to ever happen to me. It is very inexpensive. So depending on the size of your company, how many employees you have will obviously determine the cost. And then 100% of employees in a non-contributory plan are covered. So it's just something to keep in mind as you're making a decision, which one makes the most sense for you to offer. All right, so obviously tax savings. There's two key things for this. The question I always get is, can I deduct the cost of this insurance? Well, really the question is, if the business is the beneficiary of the life insurance or the group, like the group policy or any kind of insurance policy, you are not able to deduct the cost of the policy. But if you are not, right, like in the example of the non-contributory or the contributory where the family is getting the policy, then in that case, you would not be able to get the cost. Did I say that right? Employer receives the death benefit, you cannot deduct the cost, right? So hopefully that makes sense. If not, I've confused you enough to get you to reach out and we will have another conversation. I apologize, but it's pretty straightforward. You know, life insurance, the benefit to having life insurance for your employees is they just feel more secure. Right. And most people, when they retire, that's the last thing I wanted to talk to you about. And I apologize, this slide is so boring. But at this point, I think it was about 1 in the morning when I was finishing up and I figured the points would serve itself. So there are some common misunderstandings of group life insurance. So as an employer, it is very important that you're communicating well to your employees when you're signing them up for this type of policy. You know, we're happy to help. If you ever have situations where you do annual reviews of people's, you know, their health insurance, their life insurance, and you want us to come in, we are totally happy to come and help you guys out. Some of the very big misunderstandings is that if the employee leaves, that life insurance policy will go with them, right? I hear it all the time. Most people don't stay at their employers for 20 years anymore. Right? They stay 5 years and then they get some experience and then they leave and go somewhere else and they get some more experience. Well, I'll sit down with a client and be like, what do you have for life insurance? And they're like, oh, I have a policy that my, you know, my employer offers. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So what do you have if you were to get laid off or if you were to get, you know, you quit? And they're like, well, I have that policy. It's like, no, you don't. That does not go with you. So it's very important that you make sure they understand. It's again, more just a tactic to make sure that they want to stay and they realize how generous you're being to them. And then the last thing would just be, you know, when you're trying to retain employees and you're explaining to them group life insurance, I have a lot of people who maybe you don't offer group life insurance, but you have like casualty insurance for like kind of more what Stephanie was talking about, where you've got disability. And they think that's going to cover them if they were to pass, and it doesn't. So you just need to make sure, you know, to do your job as the employer and really communicate well to people what their policies cover. So with that, we are done for the night. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Annette. Thank you guys so much for coming. And Annette, we'll let you close it out.
Thank you, Cassidy. Leave that slide up. Again, thank you all for joining us. Stephanie, you did amazing. Cassidy, you did amazing. Regardless if you haven't slept, we couldn't tell. But I know some of these topics weren't the sexiest to everyone, but what they offer is definitely sexy in the sense of protection for your business and, you know, even for your employees. So we touched upon a lot of things today, and really to get something very tailored to your particular situation, please feel free to reach out to us. We are, you can find us on Facebook, Athena Financial, on Instagram, at Athena Financial, on LinkedIn. So Athena Financial Group, Inc., our brick and mortar is in the city of Glendora. We're in California. But like I said, this pandemic has been a blessing in disguise, where we have pretty much expanded our horizon and now have clients all across the United States. So even if you are not in California, we're more than happy to assist you. These ladies have been living in other states most of their life, so they're pretty familiar with other rules and regulations as well. Again, my name is Annette Uribe, and I just want to thank all of you for joining us. And again, thank you, Stephanie and Cassidy, for your time. We'll see everyone on our next webinar. And actually, I have the date for that. Let me just, do you ladies have it on hand? I know. One second. Should be in 3 months. And that date is June 17th. So if there are any specific topics that you're interested in learning more about, I think there was actually a question. Stephanie?
I answered it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, everyone. We'll have a great night, and we'll see all of you later. Bye now.
Have a good night.